to start making films based on the Tom Clancy books again, and on the whole it's not a bad idea. Jack Ryan's Shadow Recruit seems very much to be the pilot for a new film series, and it does make for quite an entertaining origin story. It stars Chris Pine in the title role up against Kenneth Branagh, who also directs, with Kevin Costner and Keira Knightley along for the ride. We see the beginnings of Jack Ryan's espionage career after he gets headhunted by the CIA, following his career choices to begin by studying economics and then joining the military in reaction to the attack on the World Trade Center in 2001. He soon finds himself going face to face with Kenneth Branagh's Russian villain, who's one of those criminal masterminds who thinks he's doing a great service for his country, sort of classic spy villain. And indeed the film does feel very reminiscent of those 90s Bond films, while Keira Knightley's character makes you think of another 90s spy film, True Lies, as she has no idea what she's getting into until she's right in the deep end. Kenneth Branagh gives a decent performance, resisting the temptation to ham it up as a pantomime villain and not running away with the film just because he could, which is something about which Johnny Depp could certainly learn a thing or two. Chris Pine seems very comfortable in the role. I was a bit disappointed to see though that his Jack Ryan isn't really that different from his Captain Kirk, and it suits the film well enough as a performance in its own right, but you know, I'm a big Star Trek fan, and I was kind of hoping that he'd be reserving a special character for Kirk and only for Kirk, while giving us something else for any other role that he plays. But if we see him in a few more Star Trek films and maybe a few more Jack Ryan films, we might see those characters diverging sufficiently over time. And I tend not to mind that Bruce Willis is always Bruce Willis, and that Tom Cruise, like him or not, is always Tom Cruise, except oddly enough in Tropic Thunder, which is an awful film in which he gave the only performance of his career that I've actually really enjoyed. And of course Schwarzenegger is always Schwarzenegger, but I want Captain Kirk to be exclusively Captain Kirk. And that's my problem, not the film's, but I'm going to say it anyway. I also want to add how refreshing it was to leave the cinema only 2 hours after going in. There's certainly no stodge to this film. It did what it needed to do and then brought it to a nice clean finish at the right time. So to sum up, it's the kind of film that you'll want to see to take your mind off things for a couple of hours. It's not too taxing. It's fairly entertaining, in fact, without giving us anything new. If you only go to the cinema once a month or so, you won't want to prioritise this over much else. But if you do go frequently and you're umming and ahhing about this one, then we'll pick a time when you fancy some short and sweet frivolity, and it'll pass that time nicely enough. Just don't expect anything you haven't seen before.